actually, sort of dovetailing to that, and this is sort of out for any of you to address, the recent FTC guidelines. Obviously, it's important to many people in this room, and has it really affected the way you guys handle social media in general? Right.
I'll start. I would say it has not changed the way we handle social media. We're still using it as strongly as we were prior. I actually am in favor of the guidelines. I think they add an additional level of accountability, responsibility, and transparency to everything that we do in the blogosphere. And we're not doing anything that we're ashamed of or is shady, so I have no opposition to people being fully aware of it. One thing, so often we'll do things like giveaways with bloggers and prize packs with bloggers and things like that, and whereas before they wouldn't necessarily have had to mention that we had given that to them or anything like that. That's really the biggest change we've seen. From our perspective, we're not doing anything that would be under any sort of scrutiny.
What about you guys?
Well, we don't do any product
Right.
giveaways or anything, so it hasn't affected us.
Good point. And just for some of the other students here today, the FTC guidelines, basically, if you notice on TV news, there's been rap on saying, hey, if you're, taking sponsored video or stuff like that and reporting in your newscast, that you should source where it came from. If you are taking it, it's obviously stretched now. Bloggers have a responsibility as well to make sure that if they are doing a promotion for a company, that they make note if they're taking any kind of payment or gifts, as Versa said. So that's what that's about.
I would add that actually is probably a step in the right direction of adding additional credibility to the blogosphere. It's treating it more like traditional media in that regard, and I think that's the right direction for it to go in.
All right, Josh, this question's for you. Does your company have a corporate social media policy? If so, what does it say?
We actually do a Prudential, and we take the measured approach, and in terms of actually guidelines and regulations, we were actually more interested and concerned with FINRA coming out with the guidelines last year earlier this year, because obviously in the financial services space. But the way that we adopted it at Prudential, we had a corporate-wide policy that everyone agreed upon as a base or as a model. And what we did then, in terms of, because as you can relate or understand, Prudential is very, very large, that we then pushed it down to the department heads. So we're saying, here's the model for this policy. You don't have to adopt it. You can adopt it if you want. You can change it. You can modify it. But here's the base for it. Because internally, we also have a lot of individuals who aren't allowed to be on it at all. For example, registered reps, broker-dealers have rules, regulations around them, what they can be saying in terms of marketing or soliciting new clients. So they're not allowed to do it at all. For example, our commodities division decided to turn off the function at all, or in total, instead of allowing anything. And so it's now just up to the individual departments to decide if they want to adopt it, if they don't, if they want to make changes. And I'm in the global communications department. Of course, our department adopted it. And then in terms of once it's adopted department-wide, then it's up to the individuals in the department if they want to use it at all. So for example, I tweet, I Facebook, I do all of these things on behalf of the retirement business. I push out news releases, audio casts, videos through my Twitter, through my Facebook, but then some of my colleagues don't want to use it at all. So they don't have Twitter accounts, they don't have Facebook. So we don't believe that having a Prudential account on Facebook or a Prudential Twitter is the best way to go. We in turn harken back to, we're still PR practitioners, the relationships are what matters. So you're coming to me to get the news instead of going to the Prudential website, or the Prudential Twitter, because we have a very high functioning website. So if you want the news on company-wide, go there. If you want news about what I'm doing, what Prudential Retirement's doing, come to me.
Sorry, can I ask you a question? Do you do that on your own account?
I do.
Oh.
So you are the voice of Prudential on retirement?
Well, my colleague's actually in the room, Dawn, and her and I rep the retirement account, and we are the voice of retirement.
As far as bloggers, social media, a lot of what we do, multi-view, is communicate with the bloggers, pitch them, get you the interviews and stuff like that, and the social media releases with the multimedia content, video, photos, links, these kinds of things to really help reach it out. Is it that combination? And which bloggers are, why are they so influential? And does it matter whether they are very small? Obviously, they're demographic targeted. You're targeting moms. You want 25 to 55. What is it, does it matter? Does it have to be a blogger that has a lot of followings? Can it just be that niche somewhere in between? Tell us.
For us, obviously, to get a hit in a blog that has a ton of followers and people that comment is amazing. But I think we don't discriminate whether you have a small blog or a big blog. I think, once you get that blog post with them, buzz builds very quickly. I think that a lot of these bloggers follow each other. It's a very small, very interactive community. They're very, very tight. So once you have, one blog post with them and they hear something about whatever it is that you're doing, it definitely spreads like wildfire. So, I can say, for example, this week we had a design blogger party for the Nest.com brand, and we invited bloggers that were big and small, and we were able to get coverage with all of them. So I think the fact that you're building buzz, regardless, in the community, it can be definitely spread and be great for your brand.
I would add that, kind of the social media mantra today is not, whoever has the most friends wins. It's whoever has the most friends of the highest quality wins. And so when you're looking at the reach of some of these bloggers, to get a really fantastic placement with a blogger that has a small, intimate group of people that really trust their opinion is going to be a lot better for us than someone who has millions of followers who are casually engaged with their conversations, pop in and out, not really reading everything they post, etc. What I would say though is you have to find the balance, because at the end of the day, the way we measure a lot of our campaigns is still in very quantifiable things like impressions. And at the end of the day, we have to be able to report the success of our campaigns through measurable results. And sometimes you need that big placement. You need either that traditional daily, you need that Good Morning America to push your impressions up. But that doesn't mean that there's no value in talking to the mom who's spending her afternoons blogging in her basement.
For us, a placement on today's show, GMA Early Show, is great, especially for our sales force, to go out there and say that we're still constantly in the news. But then at the end of the day, all those blog posts or online articles with like a Forbes or USAtoday.com or a smaller blog, that always drives traffic back to our site. Whereas if you have a segment on air, that doesn't necessarily translate to traffic for your site, and especially for an online brand, that's really important to us. So what we actually do is we keep track of, when we have an online article, we find out whether there's any direct link backs to a page that's deep into our site, not just the not.com, but like the not.com / wedding dresses. And we see how many click-throughs we got from there. Now when we can figure out, does a little-sugar.com do better for us versus a Motherlode at New York Times? So that's how we also measure it as well.
And I want all three of you to answer. I'll start with you, Jacqueline. Who else and what other companies besides the three of yours, obviously, gets it? Who gets it? Who gets the social media? Give us some examples.
I think there's two. There's People Magazine has really done a great job in engaging their consumers, constantly tweeting and doing Facebook posts. And it's not like they are just constantly trying to get you back to their website. They're really engaging people to talk about, like, what did you think about Lady Gaga's knee costume or whatever it is. So because at the end of the day, you don't want people to just think that you're always trying to drive them back to their website. You want to engage a conversation there. I think Today's Show has done a really great job, especially for this year's wedding series. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's a modern love angle, and they partnered up with Facebook to do that. And this year they had the most votes than they've ever had before. So I think that was really smart and strategic of them to do, and kind of put a fresh spin to it since they've been doing it for 10 years. And if you see on the show, every time they're plugging their Twitter, they're plugging their Facebook, and now they also have like a Foursquare badge too. So.